Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Beck. I'm the Milton Fine Curator of Art at the Andy Warhol Museum, and I'm coming to you again from my apartment in Pittsburgh, where I'm going to talk about Warhol's books. And today, I'm talking about the Andy Warhol Diaries, which were edited by Pat Hackett. You can see how long it is. But Pat Hackett and Warhol, the first day in here, it starts in 1976. They worked together, and Pat was just an undergrad student at Barnard in 1968 when she met Warhol, just a few months after shooting, actually 3 months, which she talks about in the intro to the diaries. And she started doing a lot of typing work for Warhol, which eventually turned into these book projects. And one of these projects was the diaries. So Warhol would call Pat every day and recount the things that he had done the night before. And one way to think about what Warhol was doing, you can read about it in the diaries, but he also had these date books, which exist in the archives at the Andy Warhol Museum. And you can see how packed they were with invitations to art openings, celebrity gatherings, movie premieres. And I'm holding up A is for Archive, Warhol's World from A to Z, a book by Matt Warbekin, the Andy Warhol Museum's former archivist. And this is a beautiful book that you can get at the Andy Warhol store. But the diaries really present a personal side to Warhol. They also have the catty side of Warhol. He says some mean things about some of his friends, some of his business colleagues, celebrities. But he also talks about later points in his career in the 80s when he's not feeling very well about himself. There's some moments of depression in here. He also talks about the AIDS crisis, which becomes a very personal issue for him. It impacts people that he has worked with, that he is working with at the time, and also his boyfriend and lover at the time, John Gould, who died in 1986 of AIDS. And it's actually John that Warhol talks a lot about in the diaries. There are so many entries in which he says things like, John called, or I missed his call, I was upset that I missed his call, or a call came from California, which is about John, because John worked for Paramount Pictures. Warhol was really hoping that John would help him make POPism into a movie. He talks a lot about that. But in entries in here in April of 81 and in June of 81, Warhol's talking about falling in love with John and being distressed about it, or crying himself to sleep when he couldn't get a hold of John on the phone. So it's a really personal side to Warhol. It's kind of surprising and unusual. So you can do a couple things. You can read the diaries in its entirety, which is a lot. We all have a lot of time now. Or you can read around them, and you can explore other books, something like Contact Warhol, which was an exhibition curated by Peggy Phelan and Richard Meyer at Stanford's Cantor Center for the Arts. And you can see that Warhol, later in his life, he is taking thousands of photographs for the 11 final years of his life. And this is an essay I wrote about John Gould and love and AIDS. And you can see these photographs of them on the beach. There's Warhol with John and Steve Rubell. You can see John was quite fit. You can also read Michael Herman's book, which is all about his relationship with Basquiat. And you can see the exact photos that correspond with the diary entries. So you have the diary entry and then the photos from the contact sheets from the same day. So it's a real way that the diaries become alive, because sometimes when you're reading the diaries you can think, oh, Warhol just said that, is that really true? And then when you see the photographs you think, oh, he really was in Cape Cod, or he really did go to this island on vacation, or he really was in the studio with Basquiat. And then finally you can pick up the Whitney's retrospective catalog, which is beautiful. And if you're going to have one book on Warhol scholarship, this is the one to have, because it has a lot of brand new contemporary scholarship. So this is Andy Warhol from A to B and Back again. And in here again, I write about Warhol's religious paintings as a response to the AIDS crisis and his love relationship with John Gould. So we all have time We can start reading together if you want. You can leave in your comments what you're thinking about the diaries. I'm about halfway through. So stay home, stay safe, and keep reading, and we'll be back again with more videos. Thanks, everyone.